I believe we've got Alex now, do we? Is that right? Okay, there you go. I'm delighted to. Thank you so much for bearing through one or two small technical glitches. Alex Wilson, Reform UK London Assembly member, welcome to Talk.
Good morning, Mark. Great to be on the show. As you say, a few technical glitches, but that's the joy of live broadcasting, isn't it?
It most definitely is. And what it allowed me to do is actually air my deep concerns about a potential Reform UK government, right? I'm as clear as anyone that we need a political revolution, a Trump-style revolution. Because if you look, Alex, at Donald Trump's record in office, he's improved the terms by which America trades with the world. He has closed the border. He's tackled a war on waste in American government, reduced spending, and of course a war on woke political correctness as well. He's pretty much scrapped net zero on behalf of America, and he's made the United States a country where the leadership fights for the people of the nation, not overseas interests. Can Nigel Farage do the same?
Absolutely, you're right. In Trump's first term, he cut taxes, grew the economy, and he delivered energy independence, and he delivered border security, and he's doing those three things again in his second term. And in many ways, yes, absolutely, it's a model that we need to follow here. I mean, in your preamble, you talked about net zero, energy, and the worry that the oil and gas companies are being hit extremely hard by the current Labour government, and you're right to raise the concern. Can this be turned around quickly enough to make a real impact during the next parliamentary term when hopefully there'll be a Reform UK majority? I think the answer to that has to be yes, and these companies need to be planning to do that investment now, because if things continue as they are in the polling and in the by-election results and all, then we are very clearly looking at a Reform victory in 2029. So they don't need to start planning in 2029. They need to start planning now, and then we'll be ready to hit the ground running, absolutely, if Nigel does enter Downing Street. I mean, just yesterday, another 3 gains in council by-elections. These are happening near enough every week, which is a real measure of progress. Look, the opinion polling is fantastic. This week we had our largest ever lead in opinion polling, but that only shows potential support. It's real votes in real ballot boxes that actually will make the difference. We saw what happened in the local elections in May, where we swept the board and gained outright control of 10 councils and are leading another 2. And say these council by-elections every week, these are real people going out there casting their vote for Reform candidates because they are desperate for change, fed up for too long being let down by both the Conservatives and the Labour Party. This Labour government, normally a new government comes in, as you know, and they have a honeymoon, and for the first 18 months can do no wrong. Well, look, it only took about 8 weeks for the wheels to fall off Starmer. It took 8 years to fall off Blair. So that's what's given us this huge opportunity where, as I say, people are still very fresh in their minds how fed up they are with what the Conservatives did and the broken promises that they enacted in government. That's what's given us opportunity for a new party, a new force to step forwards, and we're absolutely committed to doing that. And yes, Nigel can be a Trump, and he can be a great success, and he will build a successful team around him as well. I know a lot of the media coverage is all about Nigel, and that's crucial, obviously, but he is in the process of building a much broader team around him. We will have people coming into government who've got real experience of running things, and that's the key difference between this government, which we currently have, where not a single one of their cabinet has ever set up a business. They've never had to make those difficult decisions, employing people, sacking people, cutting costs, making things work. We're going to have a huge range of expertise coming into government that will focus absolutely resolutely on getting things done. That's why we will be a success.
Now, Donald Trump spent billions, tens of billions, securing the border, which is why he had to go to Congress to ask for an unprecedented amount of extra borrowing. In fact, the borrowing was so sky high that it caused Elon Musk to part company with the Trump project, even though he'd been such a vociferous campaigner and participant. Musk was furious about the growth in American debt, but Trump did it to close the border. So if we're going to stop the boats and tackle legal net migration as well, which is unsustainable, that's going to cost billions here in the UK. If we're going to have secure streets and more cops and more prison places, it's going to cost money. If we're going to fix our crumbling infrastructure and fill those potholes, it is going, Alex, to cost money. Where's that money going to come from, given that Rachel from Accounts will have decimated the economy by the time Nigel gets in?
Absolutely, it's going to cost money, but at the moment it's costing money to not defend the borders. We're spending almost £5 billion a year just on asylum accommodation alone. And if we can get on top of that problem and make clear deterrents so that if you come to this country illegally, you will not be able to stay, you will not be put up in these 4-star hotels or in HMOs, you'll be deported. That will save money in the medium term, and that will then enable us to spend that on the priorities that really matter. And net zero, we've talked about already. Huge cost to this country. It will cost us £30 billion a year, there or thereabouts. That's money that can be saved and plugged back into frontline services and tax cuts to grow the economy. We need to grow the economy more quickly. We need to have cheaper energy. We need to really galvanise the private sector, because at the moment we've had jobs being cut month on month on month. Every month since the budget and the national insurance hike, we have a shrinking workforce. We have unemployment rising, and that means that fewer people will be paying tax, fewer people will be contributing, fewer people will be creating economic activity. So that needs to be turned around. It needs a government that has a mindset of being supportive to business and the private sector, because without a dynamic, vibrant, growing private sector, you simply don't have the money to pay for the public services that everybody wants. So that's how we'll do it. Yes, it will be tough. Nothing in politics is easy. We know that. So that's dog barking there. But just because something is difficult doesn't mean it's not worth trying. And we simply cannot afford to fail. It's going to cost a lot of money, but it'll cost even more if we don't do this.
Well, before you get devoured by your hound, let me ask you whether you could address some concerns about Nigel Farage, who obviously, I've always argued, is the most consequential politician of his generation, even though for large chunks of his career he hasn't even been a politician. But he is the main reason why Brexit happened, that's quite clear. And now he looks to be at the helm of a significant, maybe seismic political revolution in the UK. He may well do the double, Brexit and then in government in 4 years' time. Some are concerned about his character. He falls out with everyone. Ben Habib, Rupert, these are good men who my viewers and listeners agree with and love and admire. And really, reform ought to be a broad church, but it seems that Nigel is a little too thin-skinned, a bit too much of a control freak, too much of a diva to put up with anyone that challenges his power and his position.
I don't agree with that. There are people working with Nigel who've been working with Nigel for 20 years, and if it was as you described, then that simply wouldn't be the case. Yes, it's very sad when people part company, and I spent a lot of time working with Ben Habib in the Wellingborough by-election. I was helping to run that campaign, and he was a fantastic candidate. But he's had a difference of opinion and he's moved on, and there are others who have done the same. It's very sad when that happens, but ultimately this mission that we're on is about more than any single individual. It's about saving the country. The way to save the country is to get a reform government, yes, with Nigel Farage at the head of it, but with others as well. I certainly want to be playing my role as we move forwards. We've got a really exciting period to look forward to. We've had the successful local elections just a couple of months ago. Next year, we've got the Welsh Senate elections, the Scottish Parliament elections, and another round of local elections. We're building the branch structure, so we're fighting fit to take on all those challenges. And then obviously, 2 or 3 years' time, the big one, the general election, we will have an outstanding set of candidates. We will have a really strong shadow cabinet, government in waiting, because the stakes are too high. We cannot afford to fail. We all know that. Nigel knows that. The last time I was sat down with him, I could see that real determination in his eyes. He knows this. This prize is there for the taking. And to everybody that wants to make that real difference, my message is very simple: get on board or get out of the way. We need to save our country. That starts with those elections next year, and then it finishes with the general election in 2029.
Are you worried about the Conservatives diluting your vote at the next election?
No, we're on a mission to replace the Conservatives. At the last election, we were told, oh, don't stand, you're splitting the vote. It's nonsense. We have an electoral system. Yes, it makes it difficult. First past the post, you have to have these considerations. But ultimately, we are now comfortably ahead in the opinion polls. We've gained somewhere in the region of 70 council by-elections since the general election, and the bulk of those have come since Kemi was elected as Conservative leader. She is doing a terrible job, hemorrhaging support. We're picking that up. We're also picking up support in Labour areas as well and gaining seats from the Labour Party. It's not just about the dynamic between ourselves and the Conservatives, but we are certainly positioning ourselves as the alternative to this Labour government. And everybody who wants Starmer out, and there must be an awful lot of people out there that want Starmer out, given how terrible this government is being, there's one way to do that. That's to back Reform UK.
Well, my thanks to Alex Wilson and his very well-behaved dog, who finally settled down. Alex Wilson is a Reform UK London Assembly member. Great to have you on the show.